Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of State of the Franchise, the podcast that discusses franchise of all shapes, sizes, backgrounds, and genres. I am Tom Stadler, here with my good friend, Fred Dakin.
The stars are out tonight, Tom. The stars are out and they are looking bright.
I was just thinking that we should almost call this State of the Oscars.
Ooh.
It's time for Oscar, Oscar, Oscar.
Yeah, I was driving today and I was like, what's a good like Oscar jam? And I was like, movies. It's really hard because they're like all terrible. Like, I'm like, the movie goes in the film reel and then we watch it.
that that's perfect. I kind of love it actually. We should come up with our own Oscar theme song because the Oscars don't, outside of Billy Crystal doing that song a couple times, I feel like they don't really have a theme song, and they changed like the even like the symphony lead in every year.
And this might be jumping ahead a little, but what if they just get like Weird Al to do one of his medleys in the beginning, and he can be like Oscar, Oscar, Oscar night, and you're watching it, and he like moves to like another song and does it all on his accordion or whatever.
Yeah, that was. Didn't they have like a medley though that they lead in with? Like,
They usually do some sort of
yeah.
medley. I will say we might have our wishes granted if that Harry Potter Weird Al movie, the Daniel Radcliffe, I should say, Weird Al movie gets Oscar noms.
Oh my
Maybe he
god.
will be able to come out and do a song.
That would actually be wonderful. How many times have we had an opportunity to have Weird Al at the Oscar Awards or the
Not
Academy
enough.
Awards, the Oscar Awards? Isn't that it's actually kind of always driven me nuts. We'll talk about this a little bit that it's commonly called the Oscars, but it's officially the Academy Awards. And I never know which one to use or like which one people will recognize.
Yeah, I never know either. I use them. I feel I switch them out whenever I feel like it.
Yeah, same. It's just, I mean, they are interchangeable, obviously, but it's just like can we just decide on one thing to call them? It's not like somebody calls the Super Bowl like the the Farvarama or something like that. Right?
No, they would probably need to take a second take on that. But
Yeah,
it's funny you said Super Bowl because, like, this is my Super Bowl, bro. Like, I don't
yeah,
watch sports. This is where I get hype.
and you should get hype, man. I thought this year's Oscars was a pretty good crop, and we'll obviously get into talking about this year's Oscars later on as part of our special episode today. We're gonna break from format a little bit rather than talk about the history of an entire franchise and get into all the highlights. We're really going to discuss this year's crop of movies.
Yeah, I think this year was a very good year. I mean, we can chalk it up to the pandemic, but last year, like, I feel like they were all good films, but none of them were like my movies. If I went
Hmm.
through and told you like what I would nominate, it probably wouldn't have matched. Like, I like Nomadland. It's very interesting. It's got so much going for it. I did give David Strahane best supporting snack in that. But other than other than that, like I that was the only one that I'm like, that was a movie. But the rest, like I was looking back, I think I saw Promising Young Woman was nominated for Best Picture.
Yep, it was. I
So
think. Yeah, it was. It was because I watched it because it was nominated.
mhm.
That was also a movie. That was Bo Burnham before he went and did his whole thing in the room and kind of came out with his jam session.
Yeah, that movie, which I did hear on someone's best movies of the year, like they put it on their Oscar ballot.
Ooh.
I'm like, I could maybe see that.
Yeah, I could dig that. It was pretty good, but we got plenty to talk about though. So for anyone who is not familiar with the Academy Awards, popularly known as the Oscars, as Fred and I just went back and forward on, are awards for artistic and technical merit in the film industry. Really, I would say probably the most prestigious award show of any genre potentially. I can't think of that the Grammys or the Tonys are bigger than the Oscars, right?
No, I don't think any of them, like, no one's sitting around the water cooler talking about, like, the Grammy Awards. I'm sure
No.
people watch them or follow them, but I feel like the Oscars, even when, like, being a little kid who loved movies, going to Blockbuster, you saw the boxes with the gold outline with
Mhm.
like the Ford. I always think of the Saving Private Ryan VHS, or the Titanic that had like the gold box around it. Like I knew that that was a good movie for grown-ups. Like,
My god, you're totally throwing me back here by even talking about that. It's been so long. I miss Blockbuster like crazy.
I would love to go to like I know that you can go to the last one and like kind of have an experience. It's like a museum.
Yeah, I would love to do that actually.
Is that a podcast field trip? Like we do a recording live from the last Blockbuster?
When we make $1,000 on this podcast, we'll go to Oregon and go to the last Blockbuster.
I like it. It's in Oregon. I've never been.
Yeah. There's a
Oregon
documentary out on
trails.
Netflix. Yeah, man, we'll go up
I
the
just
Oregon
hope we don't die
Trail.
of dysentery on the
Yeah.
way to Oregon.
I haven't watched that show with Daniel Radcliffe and Steve Buscemi yet, but I imagine that they made it look a lot more fun than it actually was.
I will say I love the first 2 seasons of Miracle Workers. The 3rd is not bad, but I definitely felt it was losing a bit of the juice, but season 2 is some of the best, comedy television in a while.
Wow. Oh, it's on the list. I've got a lot of shows yet to watch, but that one's probably up there now, I think. So probably soon we'll have a chat about it. Maybe we'll do an episode on it. I don't know.
Mhm.
I wanted to ask you though, Fred. So you're talking about this being like your Super Bowl and that you've been watching the Oscars for a long time. What would you say is your earliest memory of the award show?
Earliest memory of the award show, honestly, it was probably not until college that, like, I would see clips and stuff, but I
Really?
remember, like, the year that The Wrestler came out
Mhm.
was, like, the first time I was really paying attention and, like, watching not only the Oscars, but the Golden Globes.
Ooh,
I
okay.
think that might even be the Dark Knight year.
You I think you're close, if not on.
But that's around the time I think The Dark Knight had a lot to do with me getting more into the Oscars, and probably a lot of like fanboy nerds like me because that's when they opened up the category to 10 spots so they
Mhm.
could have more genre choices. And The Dark Knight was nominated for Best Picture. I feel that like because that's my favorite part is when critics have to look at my genre stuff and say, yeah, it's good. And I'm like, yeah, isn't it?
So The Wrestler came out in 2008, so I think you might be remembering that with The Dark Knight because that
Yeah.
was 2007, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was it's that same-ish time, definitely like a year apart, but that's when
Okay.
I'm like that's when I'm formulating my opinions and stuff. But the
Mm.
earliest memory is literally just seeing the boxes and like saying like, "No, you have to let me watch Saving Private Ryan. It's been nominated for Oscars." Like,
I love it though. Like, I love that that was your qualifier. It's like trying to say, "I wanna watch Boogie Nights because it was nominated for an Oscar."
this is film.
I do remember being really into the '08 Oscars, but I think the first one that really resonated with me, well, because my family used to watch it every year. So I would say like the year Titanic won, I remember it, but I feel like the one that really truly like stuck with me was 2003 when Return of the King won all the awards and it made the joke that like everybody in New Zealand has been thanked after this last like nomination. I think it was after it won Best Picture.
I guess I do recall like kind of the story coming out of that, everyone giving Peter Jackson crap because he looked like he had this little crummy suit that would look like
Yeah.
torn, and then it's you see him leaving with all his Oscar. He like won all
Yeah.
the awards.
Dude, who cares what you look like if you're gonna
Mhm.
be rocking and rolling like
Yeah,
that?
what's in the water in New Zealand over there that's making these filmmakers?
Yeah, gonna be talking about a New Zealand filmmaker today. Um, who I'm very excited for, despite some of her recent commentary. As a late bloomer with the Campion Camp, the Campion Camp. There's got to be a fan club name around that, right?
Probably. Well, they probably just call themselves Campions.
Yeah, I
I would.
mean, camp goers. I don't know.
Yeah, I think, once all this Oscar stuff dies down, I am very excited to watch, Top of the Lake, her
Mm.
TV show, because I love, like, a crime procedural. I'd
Mhm.
love to see her twist. I hear season 1's one of the best series of television, and season 2 is ridiculous, and they should not have made it. So I'm
Oh,
very
wow.
excited to watch both.
Sounds like Search Party season 5. I was not impressed. Very unfortunate because that show was a ride until then. But yeah, I only became aware recently that Jane Campion was making a TV show or had made one, I should say. And yeah, I'm very intrigued now after seeing Power of the Dog. Um, just to get into a little history before we finally get into this year's nominees. So, the Academy Awards was first held back in 1929, May 16th. It was just prior to the opening of the Roosevelt Hotel, the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. And the winner of Best Picture that year was Wings,
The TV
which is
show?
that was exactly my response to when I read it. I'm like, is the show based on this? But no, it sounds like something totally different. Had an audience of 270 people who paid what would be in today's money $50 to get into the ceremony. And I'm trying to even envision what a plate costs at the Oscars if you didn't get an invite.
Wow,
Probably
Rachel Ziegler could have made it into that Oscars.
just read she actually got an invite now. She might be
Oh, I bet
presenting
she did.
after kind of throwing some shade at them, and shame on them.
For sure.
Whoever owned that, Disney or the Motion Picture Academy, how do you leave out like a young bright star like that? But it's like this is what Hollywood needs. They need more people like that on
And
TV.
the best or the worst part about it is she's got a very modern, cool style. Like she's been on the George Lucas talk show a lot, which is
Yeah,
pretty great.
that's
But she's
awesome.
also got real classic Oscar Hollywood movie star vibes. It's kind of like this is the perfect person to kind of wrap up like, new and old. And they were like, nah.
Yeah, they're like, I don't know. Does she need to be there? Well, we gotta make sure Ansel Elgort gets his
Yeah,
invite,
Ansel
though.
Elgort got 2 seats. No, he got an empty seat on either side because no one could sit next to him.
That dude is also ridiculously tall. Like, I feel
Right?
like I
And she's
wouldn't wanna sit
tiny.
next to him. She is. It was funny to see her, like, having to wear heels for the dance scene in that movie because she had to make up the difference in the height between them.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, it was funny. So the first ceremony, though, winners were announced to the media 3 months early, so everybody knew who won before the ceremony even began. This was just at that point getting your statue and getting your applause. The second ceremony, then in 1930, and for the rest of the first decade, the results were given to newspapers on the night of the awards. But I think it was 1939, they said that the newspapers were just kind of beating them to the well, it wasn't even broadcast yet, but they were beating it to them, so people knew who won going in. So they finally changed it to the sealed envelope thing and proceeded to put La La Land instead of Moonlight in that
I
envelope.
was gonna say, yeah, and, the sealed envelope way has worked ever since.
Infallible system, unless you have Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway trying to figure that out.
Yeah, they just broke old Hollywood right on camera.
Yeah, they did. It's almost kind of sad looking at that now. It's sad to know that like Faye Dunaway doesn't get along with anybody either.
Super sad, but I will say, great television.
Absolutely, very good drama. Uh, and then yeah, man, the 25th Oscars. That was the first ceremony telecast. So we had 24 ceremonies that were just completely read about in newspapers after the fact. It's kinda like the was it the Dean Martin roasts that they used to do before they became,
Mhm.
like, the Comedy Central ones?
Yeah, I was gonna think those Oscars were probably wild.
Yeah. A hootenanny of a time just having Orson Welles probably taking down 2 bottles of liquor by himself.
Yeah, well, the Orson
Um,
Welles clips are my favorite.
no, 100%. His jokes are just have that Orson Welles that I don't even know how you describe him. He's just very highfalutin in general, right?
He's like a real life Fraser Crane on those roasts, I think. He is just like got that like and he's like making these little quick-witted jokes.
Yep. Well, Dean. Um, so Fred, I did have before we look to this year, I had a little quiz drawn up for you. So, because one of the things that I note about the Academy Awards, and I really want to get your feel. Obviously, you're excited about it. I'm excited about it, but I find that after a couple years, I really have a difficult time remembering what was actually nominated or won. And I think that's kind of a good tee up to what we're about to talk about here because I think there's a good crop of movies that were nominated, but there are also a good crop that weren't nominated.
For sure.
So to get this started, I want to take us back a decade and I want to ask you to give me three of the nominees from the 2012 Academy Awards, aka the year that Dark Knight Rises was nominated or not nominated.
Dark Knight Rises year 2012.
Yep.
I feel like so obviously it was in the movie 2012. That didn't get nominated, but it did come out
No.
the year 2012.
So to be clear, so the 2012 would have been for
The
the year
movies.
2011.
Right, yeah, I forgot it's the year after.
Yep.
I feel like if you gave me one movie, I could like domino effect it.
Okay.
'Cause
I'll give you the hardest one I think from this year, and that was Warhorse.
that fucking horse.
That
Oh
horse.
god. Cause this is the year I moved into my brother's place in college and we didn't have TV.
Mhm.
So I'm not watching the Oscars this year. I got nothing, man. You stumped me.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not good at like the years.
I know. It's super tough. I'll give you let's see. I'll give you 2 directors and see if you can pull them out. Uh, Terrence Malick.
Oh, Tree of Life.
Yeah.
Brad
What
Pitt got nominated for an Oscar.
Yep. Also got nominated that year, well, for Best Picture was Moneyball.
Ooh, yeah, that didn't that win?
That did not win Best Picture, but
But that's also you've got nominated, Jonah Hill gets nominated, Brad Pitt gets nominated,
yep,
right?
for that movie, yep. Yes, The Artist, though, was the Best Picture
Oh
that year,
god. That
which
movie is so funny.
that movie I remember loving that movie coming out of the theater, and I haven't thought about it unless we're talking about the Oscars, and I'm like, "Oh, you remember when The Artist won?"
So Jean Dujardin is nominated for Best Actor, right? And
And won Best Actor.
the dog came out on stage, I remember.
Yeah. That was a talented dog, though, let's not
I'm not hating.
but, yeah, other movies that year, Descendants, The Help, Midnight in Paris.
Yeah, if you were to ask me that year which of those I liked, I would have said Midnight in Paris probably at the time.
I did, yeah. I did like Midnight in Paris and Hugo, and I'll stand for Hugo
Ooh,
because that was
yeah.
a secret, Meneer movie, and I dug the hell out of that.
Good Sacha Baron Cohen performance.
Oh, that's right, he's the station guard or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, but enough about 2012, Fred. Let's talk about this year, and to kind of change our format for this episode, I think we'll talk about how each category had its list of nominees, which ones we like from those lists. And then we'll also talk about ones that potentially should have gotten nominated. And that'll be our coulda, woulda, shoulda kind of all in one. And we'll keep bouncing back and forward from category to category. So to kick us off, I want to talk to you about Best Actress. And we'll kind of combine the roles for Best Actress and Best Supporting so that we can include even the roles that didn't get nominated and kind of see who was in that list. So for Best Actress, we had Olivia Colman for The Lost Daughter, Jessica Chastain for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mothers, Cole Kidman for Being the Ricardos, and Kristen Stewart for Spencer. What did
Definitely not
you
a bad turnout there, I don't think
No.
overall. I mean, there's one nadir for me, but it's actually not even that bad of a performance.
Which, uh which ones were you a big fan of?
So I think this movie I'm excited to watch in like 2 years, but it was pretty undeniable. I thought Kristen Stewart for me was the big standout.
Mhm.
Someone like posed that movie to me as think of it as like The Shining starring Princess Diana. And when I thought about it, I was like, damn, that movie is kind of shot like The Shining and has that same feel. And I think she brings it by doing like a person that is real and also an accent, and it all works.
Yeah, definitely agreed there. She blew my doors off. Um, are you in agreement that she should probably win this year?
Yes, and it's kinda like I said, I didn't love the movie, and I really like to love the movie when I give, like, my best when I give the award to an actress, but I gotta say, like, that was the one that definitely I was like, when I saw it, I was like, "Yeah, that's it."
Yeah. Do you feel like that's becoming more commonplace with the best acting awards that they're not necessarily for great movies? We certainly have. Well, actually, I'm going up and down the list. None of the movies for the acting award for Best Actress were nominated for Best Picture. So we literally have just like pure performances from top to bottom here.
Mhm, and, like, the example of that for me would be we together had a bro day and watched The Lost Daughter, and that was a
Yeah.
movie I did not really that didn't really do it for me, but I do have Olivia Colman on my list for Best Actress because 'cause I'm like, "Well, yeah, she was great in it," so,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So Coleman probably could win, right?
Mhm.
I actually didn't get to see The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Did you get a chance to look at that
I
one?
did see that, and Jessica Chastain, who I also have on my list, is very good in it, but it's also, like, a very showy, hammy movie
Mm,
that is pretty pedestrian by the books biopic, which I was kinda sad sad because I don't know if you knew it's directed by Michael Showalter from
really?
Stella. Yeah, like, and I was like, "Okay," because he did, the Kumail Nanjiani movie, I believe. The
Oh, why is that one escaping me now? Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm
The
sure people know the one we're talking
Big
about.
Sick?
Yeah, The Big Sick. So he's kind of slowly been becoming like an auteur, which I'm all about because I think he is a good director. But yeah, it was very much like, look at these actors, doing these big performances. Isn't it very good? And I don't know. Righteous Gemstones is a better uh version of that story for sure.
Yeah, I could probably see that just because I feel like it has the ability to go much more over the top as opposed to, yeah, like The Eyes of Tammy Faye, which probably has to be somewhat grounded because it's based in reality.
Yeah, I don't know. The Gemstones do that, like, they have that balance of, like, over the top humor, and I'm also like the commentary on churches, how they deal with money and taxes, like, it
Mhm.
hits all that perfectly.
Yeah. That it does kinda come off that way. I only watched the pilot for that show, so I have very minimal context, but that's the vibe I kinda got just watching that
Season
part.
2 is like, season 1 I really liked season 2. It's got
Really?
Eric Roberts in it, and he's just doing his thing. It's pretty great.
Man, it's what a different career path he had from his sister, right? Sister was
Yeah,
Julia
sister.
Roberts? Yeah. Okay.
Like, I feel he's doing, like, Pope of Greenwich Village next level acting, and, like, he's
Oh,
playing,
man.
like, a very similar character.
I didn't get to see that either, but I've heard about it.
Oh, man, you gotta
Um,
watch that.
I'm clearly behind on some of these shows.
Well, Pope of
Pi
Greenwich Village is, like, way back in the day, an older movie with him and Mickey Rourke that was, like, an Oscar play.
Oh, you
You
know
ever
what?
like, "They took my fingers, Charlie."
That one does ring a bell, but I just was thinking, I was like, "What was the last thing Mickey Rourke did? Was it Iron Man 2?"
Yeah, you don't remember? He wanted his bird.
He wanted his bird, but he did not get the bird. Well, he did get the bird, but he did
He
not get
paid
another
to have
job.
that bird in the movie.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, he paid for the bird and his gold teeth. They said they would not pay for it. He said, "Well, what if I pay for it?" Because he was in character, probably.
Yeah. Or how does he talk in real life? Kinda like that, right? Like
Yeah.
Randy the Ram character. I love that we got 2 Mickey Rourke movies squeezed in this just because the dude has been off the map for probably 5, 10. Andrew Dice Clay, who seems like he has very similar energy to Mickey Rourke now, has gotten way more work than Mickey Rourke has.
Well, I think Andrew Dice Clay has come around and knows like how to play ball now, and now he's getting like these great roles that are fit perfectly for him.
Yeah.
Like I thought he was amazing in A Star Is Born.
Oh, yeah. That was a great role.
When he was watching the TV and he's like, "That's my daughter." Like I thought that was like the best. I would have given him Oscar for that.
That was a surprisingly good movie. I have to say. I did enjoy it quite a bit.
Tom, I just want to get another look at you.
I love that Bradley Cooper like forgot how to sing that way after he was just like spending too much time with Sam Elliott, which is a little concerning considering Sam
Yeah,
Elliott's recent behavior.
you shouldn't spend too much time with Sam Elliott. Although when Sam Elliott puts his hand on the back of that headrest to reverse in A Star Is Born, he's got tears in his eye. I
Yeah,
would give him an Oscar for that.
definitely. Just the eternal cowboy in mindset and in body and look. Um, let's talk about supporting actress though, because we got a couple interesting roles here. I always love the supporting roles because I feel like as good as the leading roles are normally, the supporting roles always give somebody a chance to shine with a lot of limited time. And I felt like most of the people in this category got a decent chunk of screen time, maybe outside of Jesse Buckley, who got nominated for The Lost Daughter. We had Ariana DeBose for West Side Story, Judy Dench for Belfast, Kirsten Dunst for Power of the Dog, and oh god, I'm gonna have to apologize in advance for this one. I think it's Anjanou Ellis.
Ingenue Ellis?
Yeah, is that right?
I think so.
Anjanou Ellis? Yeah, for King Richard, which I've not seen yet. So that's the
Oh,
one
okay.
best picture. I have to disqualify myself from a couple of those categories, just knowing that those performances and that movie could be very good. But you've seen
Yeah.
it?
I did see it. It is definitely when it gets to the Serena Williams parts, that's when it really flies. But I
Okay.
mean, I would be happy if I know we're not doing the actor, but Will Smith is pretty good, and I could see him leaving with the trophy because he won the BAFTA. So,
Oh wow.
but as far as that performance, it's a good performance, but I don't think it's going to hold water compared to some of these others.
Yeah, it's a little tough considering I think just the work that the one that I was like she could win because I don't know that she has yet, and I will have to do some quick research here. But Kirsten Dunst in Power of the Dog is doing some she's doing some real good play, bouncing off
Mhm.
of Benedict, another Best Actor nominee.
Yeah, and I would say like I really want Ariana DeBose to win, but I also feel like Dunst deserves a trophy for this role. Like she did really well, so it's I want to give it to both.
Yeah, this is Kirsten Dunst's first Oscar nominee. That's a
Wow.
little surprising considering she's done some stuff.
Well, more like the kind of director she works with. Like she works
Yeah,
with kind of auteurs, so I feel that puts you in the right place. But
but to not break through until she's, pushing 40, like, come on. It's
mhm.
kinda crazy. Or she's probably over 40 now. I feel like I don't know her. Yeah, she's gonna be 40 in April.
But so you would agree that Ariana DeBose is probably going to win, but Dunst might be the surprise upset. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. I think Ariana DeBose will win. Kirsten Dunst could win. I'm a little torn on should win because there's now that I'm comparing these 2 movies in my mind, I only just watched West Side Story over the weekend, but Ariana DeBose is really damn good. We were even talking about after the movie, I'm talking about, my girlfriend and I, about how much better the part of Anita is than really any other part in that movie,
For
and
sure.
I don't think the movie works without her.
I think
I
there's
mean
2 performances that make the movie work. We'll get to that, but she is
okay.
definitely on my, Fred's got his Academy Award noms, and they may not mean anything, but these people should be pretty thrilled they're on my list. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna say.
but you would give the trophy to Dunst is what you're saying.
Um, of the people nominated, yes.
Okay.
I do, and I think I would probably give it out of my category too. I would split between Ariana DeBose and Dunst. Um, but I do have, I don't know if it was jumping, I do have 3 supporting actresses that were not nominated that I would.
No, let's talk about what could have been because yeah, there were a lot of performances that were good that didn't get recognized, and that's very
I
sad.
didn't throw out any actresses because everyone that got nominated was pretty much like it was like a mere copy.
Mm.
I didn't know if you had any actresses. I know we went past it, but I know if there was anyone you wanted to shout out real quick.
Um, I did write down a number of them,
Okay,
only because I had a chance to really kind of look back yesterday and think about all the different performances that I'd watched. Um, I felt like Rebecca Ferguson in Dune was really good.
very good.
I, it's weird how she keeps kind of popping up in these big movies, even like Doctor Sleep, and it's kind of secretly the best part of them. So
Oh yeah, Doctor Sleep. I think she's amazing, and
yeah, like that movie also probably not anywhere near that great without her.
I would agree with that. And I love that movie.
Yeah. Um, I also wanted to give a shout out though to Rita Moreno in West Side Story too, because I was like,
Mhm.
here she is playing it's a pretty throwaway role. Maybe not. I shouldn't say that. I haven't seen the stage production that many times, maybe one time in my life, but to
Well,
go
usually in the production, it's just like the guy Doc. It's like this is a completely new character written, correct?
yeah, yeah. I think they obviously switched the gender, kind of created something new. It was weird because I was trying to read a synopsis because we were actually trying to figure out too if the events followed the same way that they did exactly in the stage play because we had not remembered anything about Tony going to jail in the original production, but that could have been part of it, or part of been part of the movie, but not the play, or the play, but not the movie. So it's like there's so much information going back and forward. But that aside, her getting that song too was pretty great.
It was really good, and
For
you kind of
90
want to
too.
hear it.
She's 90 years old.
Right, and it's like that song is usually like this belted song, but she does it very reserved yet very beautiful and soulful. And yeah, I like what they did with that character, especially having someone who is like a Puerto Rican person who married a white person who has this kind of special power in the neighborhood because of who
Mhm.
she is. And I thought that was like many of the like little things that they did in that movie, which I loved. I thought like that, and I feel as like privileged white guy. I don't know if I can say this was effective or whether this is the right way to go about it, but I thought the trans character was done really well in the West Side Story. I
Yeah.
thought that was great representation.
I man, we'll talk more about West Side Story when we get into the Best Picture nominees,
Okay.
but I really did enjoy this take on it. After hearing a lot about it, I'm like, well, what can you do with West Side Story? And it's like you can do a lot compared to especially to the original version. So, um, so you didn't have any other acting or actress
For
nominees?
supporting actresses, I do have 3 that I wanted to throw out,
Okay.
that did not get love. One is Catherine Hunter. She played the witches in, the tragedy
Oh,
of Macbeth. She's Mrs. Fig from Harry Potter,
yeah. Yeah.
and I don't know why she's not up there, but that was my favorite part of the whole movie.
Yeah. That was a miss.
Um, I also have Harriet Sampson Harris from, Licorice Pizza.
Yep, I wrote her down
And
too.
that might be my win, but it's so, like, in a sweet spot for me because it is pretty much her doing her Frasier character in a PTA movie, like,
Yeah.
it's the same deal, but it's probably written a little better because it's PTA. And the last one, a bell I will be ringing. I wish I had a real bell with me. For a movie that did not get any love at all is Olga Merediz in the Heights. She was
Mm.
like the kind of elderly woman who everyone looked up to, and she has that great number towards the end when she dies. Spoiler alert.
Oh, I didn't actually see the movie, but
Oh, sorry.
okay. Well, now I know. Uh, but no, that's a good another name to throw out there though too. Um, and it's like I think this kind of goes to it. You know, we just sort of had this back and forth here, but it's hard to really categorize like Harriet Sansom Harris. Obviously, that's a supporting acting role, 100%. But like, I feel like sometimes it really is just sort of arbitrary who's supporting and who's leading. Because like Rebecca Ferguson in Dune could be a supporting role. It could also be a leading role. Like
Right.
kind of wherever. And it's almost surprising that she didn't break through because Nicole Kidman was good in being the Ricardos. I've seen her do better. It's just because she was doing a Lucille Ball impression. That's my take.
Yeah, and I just thought with that performance, I guess there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just like when you have grown up with an actress and you can see what she can do. I
Hmm.
feel you almost expect like, spellbinding performances to get nominations now because
Yeah.
it's
Well,
Nicole Kidman. She
yeah.
goes to AMC theaters.
She's she's just like all of us. I yeah, I mean, she's one of those that you'll just keep seeing her pop up, right? She's like a Meryl Streep or even Judy Dench you got nominated. It's like, of course she got nominated. Or you had and one person we didn't talk about who didn't get nominated this year is Frances McDormand for Lady Macbeth. It was
Oh,
like
there you go.
who was also very good, but Frances McDormand is always very good. So
Mhm.
when is she good enough and not? You know, because she sets her own bar as high as she can go.
For sure,
Um,
and one thing that we know about the Oscars, they love them some Judi Dench.
they love Judi Dench. Ugh, man, I had never seen Shakespeare in Love, so I assumed when I saw Judi Dench had won an Oscar for that movie, I was like, "Oh, she's probably just bringing that powerhouse stuff in a couple scenes." She is in 2 minutes of that movie.
With
Like,
so much makeup on, right?
yeah. Oh, it's ridiculous.
Honestly, I would take it away for that, and I'd give it to her for Cats. That movie may be awful, but she's doing it in that movie.
Sisters are doing it for themselves. Let's move on to actor.
Cool, cool.
So we had for best actor in a leading role, Javier Bardem for being the Ricardos, Benedict Cumberbatch for Power of the Dog, P of the D, Andrew Garfield in Tick Tick Boom, Will Smith in King Richard, and Denzel Washington in The Tragedy of Macbeth. What were you feeling on this one?
I think these are all pretty good noms. I think everyone knew when Will Smith was doing this movie, he was gonna get a nomination even if he was
Mm,
bad.
yeah.
Um, Benedict Cumberbatch is definitely a big standout for me because when I heard he was, like, gonna be in a Western, I was like, "That's stupid. The dude sounds like a butler." And the thing is, though, it kinda plays into that because he's playing this, like, intelligent, scholarly dude who wants to just live the, like, Bronco Henry Ranch life, so he is a fake. So it kinda works.
It
And,
does.
yeah, that was my thought about him, and then the other thing I'll throw out, I think Andrew Garfield, who's having, like, the best year ever, is like that Tick Tick Boom performance really turned me around on Andrew Garfield. I was never the biggest
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield fan, but I think I might be a big Andrew Garfield fan.
Well, I'll tell you what, Andrew Garfield could have pulled in a supporting role for No Way Home because he was real good in that too.
You're just gonna ruin my hot take.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
that take has gone so cold at this moment because I had that take leaving the theater.
Yeah.
I was like, we were all here for Toby, but Garfield's bringing the real heat, and he is amazing in this. He's the
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man, so it makes sense.
He had a fastball going that day. He had a fastball going all year. He would have won Cy Young if he was playing baseball. That's for sure. he is he's very good in Tick Tick Boom. That's definitely my upset pick that could win because there's even an argument. And I haven't seen Eyes of Tammy Faye just based on what I hear, so you can vouch for this. Was he pretty good in that too?
I think he's kind of a ham sandwich in that movie. He's not bad, but like that's the Andrew Garfield shit we don't like is
Yeah.
him in that movie.
Okay.
But yeah, I think overall it's not a bad performance, but it's definitely he's making a ham sandwich in that movie.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
Him and Vincent D'Onofrio are just rubbing ham together for a couple of scenes.
Oh God. Well, I'm maybe not in a rush then to see that. I'll probably catch it at some point this week,
Mhm.
but definitely want to catch King Richard once it comes on HBO later this week.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
fun watch to an extent. Like the first hour is kind of depressing, but like I said, once the Venus Williams stuff really cooks,
yeah,
it's like watch Remember the Titans or something like that. It gets like to those good vibes for me.
another good Denzel performance. Who's another one of those actors who it's just like he never phones it in. He's
No.
he's always on. You pick the performance that you don't think he's up to his own level of capabilities, and it's like it feels kind of like a like almost a like he was going for that grab here, be like, I can play Macbeth. And he was a good Macbeth. Like obviously he's nominated, but it just I don't know. Something that movie was so beautiful to watch just from a cinematography standpoint, but something just I don't know. It didn't have that edge to it that you expect from like a Shakespeare adaptation or even just from any kind of movie like that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't know. It was all good performances. It was good lighting, good movie all around, but it didn't hit that great stratosphere for me.
Yeah. I would say for me, it's gonna be I think Will Smith's gonna win, and I'd say it's a split upset between Benedict Cumberbatch and Andrew Garfield.
Ooh, I was actually gonna say Cumberbatch will win. Garfield could. Will Smith could only because for every reason you provided for Will Smith, and not to shit on Javier Bardem here either. Obviously, he's
Which,
good, but
like, I kind of am fine with him getting the nom because he definitely has and when I watched that movie, it's wild what he's doing, but it's also like, I kinda wanna hang out with this guy, and, like,
right.
isn't that the point a little bit? That you're like, "This guy's a little bit of a piece of shit, but he's so damn charming?"
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's sort of he definitely gets in your head
Uh-huh.
a bit.
I will say being the Ricardos
Doing my
was
Benedict right there.
it kinda worked.
It
You
was a
gotta
stretch.
scowl a little more when you do it.
Sorry, I was going to say that Javier Bardem always brings the heat.
I like it. The dude's got a baseball glove attached to his hand, so he has a fastball ready at all times.
Yeah.
I was gonna throw out my 2, actors that I was gonna throw out, Gael Garcia Bernal for Old and Anthony
Oh.
Ramos for In the Heights.
Okay, I didn't see In the Heights, so that's a good one. I didn't like IL in Old. I told you I watched Old. I've seen him in better stuff. Y tu mama también is peak.
Well, yeah, that's a hard comparison, but I would
Yeah.
say, I really thought that the aging was done mostly by the actors in that movie, and
Mhm.
I think him, like, going blind and looking at Vicky Creeps at the end was, like, oddly heartwarming, which felt really weird to get heartwarmed during that
Mhm.
movie, and I was like, but I know, I'm also just kinda in the camp for that guy because he was also pretty good in Station 11.
Actually didn't see that one either, but I do love him. I mean, Coco also, yeah, provides a great all-time vocal performance.
Oh, yeah. And then Anthony Ramos, I'm just like, he really puts that movie on his shoulders. I think In the Heights just got like swept under the rug for no reason.
Mhm. because yeah, there was so much fanfare. I think a lot of people even talking about like why did this movie just kind of fall into nothing? Because it really was. I think mostly positively received. Maybe some stuff where people were like, didn't love the way they did that or portrayed this type of person, but yeah, overall, okay. I had two definite lead actor nominees. Hidetoshi Nishijima in Drive My Car. Again, a name I hope I'm not mispronouncing, so apologies ahead of time. And Nicolas Cage in That Pig.
Love that pig. I actually had
Love
him on the
that
list.
pig.
I while you were talking, I was like, "Oh crap, I missed Nick Cage."
Nick Cage, which is funny because I was just reading an article too about how he was like, I may have done all these video on demand movies to help me pay off my taxes or my debts, but I never phoned it in. And I'm like, you didn't. I've watched a lot of those movies just because, and
Right.
he's always there. He's always like putting everything he has into a performance. Like that's pretty respectable. And I think just to speak a little to that, because we're not going to really have a chance to talk too much more about Pig, I don't think throughout the rest of this is I love that it kind of culminated in that before he really was back, that he was able to do a movie like Pig where it's totally curbs your expectations for what you expect for a movie or a performance too. Like you expect him to have that Mandy like edge to him. But it turns out to be just this very heartbreaking movie and you're like, "Shit."
Right. Everyone thought it was gonna be John Wick, but with a pig.
Yeah. And instead it's like,
Ratatouille.
yeah, Babe meets Ratatouille. Let's talk supporting.
This is probably my biggest list because I'm like, the deal with Freddie's Oscars is I can have 7 dudes on this list if I want.
That's true. Brett, if you ran the Oscars, I would watch the entire ceremony because I just want to see
I'd
who
bring
else are
back Hugh
there.
Jackman.
Another guy we need to get back into the fold here too.
I
But
thought you were
not
gonna
not
say we gotta get him on the pod.
we got to get him on the pod. What do you think he's doing right now? Is he talking to Reynolds about possibly getting into Deadpool? We'll see.
He's busy, like, acting like he knows what TikToks are.
Yeah. Actor in a supporting role for the nominees we have is it Ciaran Hines? God, I'm gonna just
Kieran.
Kieran, but it's spelled way different than like Kieran Culkin.
I've just always heard it's Kieran Hines.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Troy Kotzer, Jesse Plemons, J.K. Simmons, and Cody Smith McPhee. Where were you falling on this list? Did you get to catch every one of those movies?
I believe I did. I would say that I had Cody Smith McPhee as my like winner and nom guy for like since I saw Power of the Dog,
Mm.
and he little by little made it off of my list, whi-
Yeah.
which stinks because it's a great performance. But I mean, the guy who kind of blew everyone out of the water, and he's not my pick because I think he's gonna take it is Troy Kotzer and Coda.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't actually say the movies, did I? Hines in Belfast, Kotzer, Coda, Plemons in Power of the Dog, Cody Smith McPhee in Power of the Dog, J.K. Simmons in Being the Ricardos. Um, but yeah, I fully agree with you there. Kotzer should win. I think he will win. That Kieran Hines though, that role in Belfast was pretty dang good.
Yeah, that is true. That
That
might be the part I liked of Belfast.
I put that one as could win. Smith McPhee is also a could. It just I don't know.
I was just gonna say I think I would have liked Belfast better if I didn't have like the news tell me about how Van Morrison hates wearing a mask.
Yeah,
And then like it used
so much Van Morrison in that movie.
which usually before all that I would have been like, hell yeah, I love Van Morrison. But now every time I listen to it, all I can think about is like he's so mad he can't go eat at IHOP.
I'm like, why do you even want to do that? Dude, you can make better corned beef hash at home. Like, let's be real.
You're my grand slam. It's just like I think
God,
all these musicians like him and Eric Clapton are too old to do drugs or drink anymore, so all they can do is go to like Cracker Barrel, and if they can't do that, they're gonna write a song about it.
maybe they'll go hang out with Kid Rock. He's kind of in that same camp,
He
just
probably has
being
a Cracker Barrel in his house.
he lives in a Cracker Barrel. Yeah. Like, Kid Rock doesn't have a home. That's why he lives on a boat half the year. How about your could have been nominated?
All right, I'm looking at my list here. So the big one for me that like I'm surprised no one even talked about. I really liked Sean Harrison Spencer. It could have just been the flip of I'm used to seeing him like with foam coming out of his mouth, looking angry, but he's like such a sweetie in that movie.
Yeah. He's the
Uh,
head chef, right?
yeah, he's the chef in it.
Okay.
Then I have Adam Arkin from Pig, kind of like a great one scener. He's the dad.
Oh.
Adam Arkin is the other Arkin's brother, the
Oh,
famous Arkin.
really?
Yeah.
Alan
Who's the
Arkin.
yeah.
Alan Arkin, yeah.
Alan and Adam. Yeah, that's the difference.
Did not know they were brothers, okay.
And then my pick and my winner is Mike Feist for West Side Story.
Yeah, he's so good.
And then three other names, John Barenthal and King Richard. I don't know why I couldn't think
Oh,
of it.
yeah, yeah,
He's great. Mark Antony has a great one scene in the Heights. And then, like I said, my big take, Andrew Garfield, No Way Home.
yeah. He's very good in that. Those are good picks. I'm excited to see King Richard now. I think, it sounds like there's a lot of good performances in there and a lot of good just all around this stuff. I mean, I like Venus and Serena, like, again, we go back to the Campions comments. It's like, maybe let's just not say anything. It's not anyone's choice that they're not facing men. They have to deal with the expectations every day of their life. Like, and if they had to play men, they probably are beating them. They're that good.
Mhm. Well, my thing with her comments like, would I rather be a like older lady in New Zealand or would I rather be a small black child in Compton? Which do you think is harder?" Like
Yeah,
it's
no shit.
I know which
It's
one. I'm sorry, I just know.
yeah. My God. It's just some people just need to put a filter on
But
themselves.
and of course,
Uh,
I throw in names just to give them like light, but Mark Anthony really does have like a great scene in The Heights.
really.
Just kind of like a one-off scene.
Which is it's funny too. I love seeing these musicians start coming in. Right, Mark Anthony, he's a musician.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm like, I'm not thinking of somebody else, am I? But yeah, tell me, baby girl, cause I need to know. That's
I
Mark
need to
Anthony.
know.
That's a jam. I hope he sings that song in the Heights.
No, that's the weird part. I don't think he doesn't sing at all. It's a purely dramatic part in The Heights.
Wow. All right. I'm here for it. I'm in. Um, I like that list. I'll throw out a couple because I can't believe you missed this one, Fred. Bradley Cooper and Licorice Pizza? Or did you say it?
Yeah,
And
that was one
I'm
of
like doubting that I even like didn't hear it.
that I did love, but it was also just one of those like, yeah, Bradley Cooper's got that fastball. I know it. Like,
Yeah. He's everybody and anybody who's been talking about that movie or that performance has talked about how awesome it is. And he just has that energy about him. It's so
mhm.
good.
Yeah, it's cocaine energy. That's the
It is.
vibe.
It's big cocaine energy. I wanted to give another shout out to 2 movies we just talked about too. So Alex Wolff and Pig,
Oh yeah,
not old. I'm sorry, Fred. I didn't.
he's good and old though.
He's fine. Uh, we'll talk old, but I liked him in Pig. I thought that was a really good role for him. I like that he's kind of sneakily turning into this sort of like reliable, not a leading man necessarily, but he kind of comes in these movies. He delivers great work. I'm really looking forward to keep watching Alex Wolff for years.
He can
Um,
be very cool, and he can also be like a sopping wet blanket, and I love it.
yeah, that he does. He has the ability to switch like that. I feel like going back to the actresses, Jessie Buckley kind of has that energy too right now, where she can kind of just really bring the house down, or she can look like she's having the time of her life and just gonna roll with it. The other one from No Way Home, I was gonna throw out Willem Dafoe because
For
he's
sure.
just wonderful. He ties that movie together. As much as people were excited about Molina, I thought Dafoe outshined him.
Oh yeah, Defoe is my guy of the two. Like I like Doc Ock, and I think I agree. Spider-Man 2 is probably a better movie than Spider-Man 1. But when talk
Mhm.
about pure villain roles, like it's Defoe.
Yeah, he is Dafoe, and
Like
he set the tone.
and I was very disappointed. I forget who ended up beating him, but I'm still mad he didn't win for Florida Project because I thought that
Oh,
was the perfect, you know, because I guess it was just the idea that it kind of turned his personality on the head where he was kind of standoffish, but then you see he's got like this great heart.
that was a miss. I was looking up the 2017. I think Mahershala might have beat him that year, which probably deserved, but
Wait for Moonlight though, right?
yeah, for
Okay,
Moonlight.
yeah. I was like,
Yeah,
if it's
no,
for
no, not Green Book. We won't talk about Green Book. We don't need to talk about Green
I
Book.
don't mind taking that award from Mahershala for Green Book, but I won't touch his Moonlight award.
Yeah. Want to talk about some actual like movies?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's just kind of slowly weed in here. So documentary, because I do want to talk about one that I am very certain will win. I could be wrong, but I think it's got that heat. Um, the best documentaries was something that I never really watched much in years past, but I think is really the last 2 or 3 years. It started becoming a must see. And I think you said you've only seen maybe one of the nominees on the list. Is that right?
Yeah, Flea.
Okay. We'll talk Flea at the end because spoiler alert, that's the one that I think will win. But just to give a little love, watch Summer of Soul, which is all about the Harlem music festival that took place back in I think it was like 1969, like same time as Woodstock. And it's pretty crazy to see all these people out in this park and just having a time of their life and just what a cultural movement it was. And it this really was a year where I felt like they were doing a lot of documentaries where it's about topics that a lot of people don't know about. Attica was another one that got nominated. It was about a prison riot that got quelled in an extremely violent way.
Mhm.
Not for faint of heart.
There's
It's
an
a
Attica. I'm gotta watch that because I know about Attica. Well, mostly from like looking at Wikipedia while watching Dog Day Afternoon.
oh yeah. It's a hard watch, but it's one that everyone should watch because I think it just kind of puts a real big pin in the whole conversation about the infrastructure of the prison system and just about where we even started, 2 years ago with the Black Lives Matter movement really taking off and just keeping that conversation going. Um, to see where people were in 1971 and just how little things have changed. It's crazy. Uh, Ascension was another very interesting one. It's very much about consumerism and like the world of working in China. And it's just a very fascinating watch. You're very much just a fly on the wall watching people do stuff. There's not a lot of talking heads, or I don't think there's any actually. So it's a little like that Beatles documentary, but instead you're in the heart of China, of seeing how people are working in these factories and all over.
Mhm.
But what were your thoughts on Flea?
Well, Flea, I thought is just one of those documentaries that was packaged great for a broad audience, and that's why I think it's getting such heat because it's got the great animation. It's also got like star performers adding their talent to the role, which is kind of like for me, I liked and disliked because I kind of wish I was going in there not being like, oh man, I like Riz Ahmed because of the whole time I am picturing Riz Ahmed. Like, even though you're getting to see the uh animation version in my head, I'm still like picturing Riz Ahmed. But I think it really having the animation, having kind of the touchstones made it interesting. I don't wanna
Yeah.
necessarily say enjoyable, although the animation is very cool, even though it's relatively stripped down, but, it's very interesting how it moves.
Yes. Absolutely. It's a movie that I didn't see it coming. Like what was even gonna be about. Like you kind of got a feeling of like, okay, is this gonna be about, some kind of crazy journey that somebody went on, but the lengths that this movie went, I think, to in the pursuit of art to try and to completely conceal the person's story that they're telling and the whole like journey, it's just wild, just absolutely wild, and it's so pertinent, I think, too, especially with Russia invading another country and the fallout that's going to happen from that, and to see this documentary and be like, again, here was something, what, you know 30 some years ago, that very similar. I'm sure.
Definitely.
And a lot of Ukrainian refugees are probably maybe not going to the same crazy lengths, but still probably some further lengths than they expected to get out of there.
Mm. Well, I'm
It,
definitely glad that you checked out some of these documentaries. Because yeah, I am kind of feeling as I get older, I really should watch them just for like the personal growth you get. And when I end up watching it, like a movie like Flea, I tend
mhm.
to enjoy it. And I think that's how most people are. It's just like
Yeah.
most people aren't thinking to check those out. I feel most people do skip over the documentaries.
I mean, I think a lot of people do, but it's also the other end. And kind of what you just said. It's like when you watch one, you feel like, oh, I'm getting something a little bit more from these. And it seems like, it's becoming a more popular category, more talked about. A lot more people are getting attention for them. Yeah, I mean, definitely from the nominee list, I think they really captured a lot of good ones because the ones that I had said missed the cut were the Beatles Get Back, which isn't really a documentary in my mind. Maybe it is. I don't know. Where do you place that?
That's just like a retro Twitch stream. No, I only watched the first like hour of it. I'm gonna get to more of it, but dang, it's such a
Yeah,
hangout vibe for watching that.
it is. It's very much like you're just sitting in the room spending time with the Beatles, which it leads to like one of the greatest like 90-minute closings of anything I've seen, but it's just up until that point, it has become a little bit of a slog and it picks up momentum. But I'm like, Peter Jackson, man, we could have cut another 2 hours or so out of this thing.
Oh, you wanted Peter Jackson to cut stuff out of his movie?
That might be asking too much of him. You're right.
I wanted the movies to be long. I don't know what voice that was.
No, he's got the New Zealand accent.
Yeah, I watched so many of those
Yeah.
Lord of the
Just
Rings documentaries with I was writing this with Fran.
I was gonna ask you, you saw that one. Did you see Sparks Brothers?
I did not, the Edgar Wright documentary,
Yep.
and I love a documentary about a band I don't know, so I'm very excited to watch it. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yes. I
Like
think
the
that's one I wanna visit too after the fact because I didn't get to see it either.
one that comes to mind, one of my favorite documentaries, it's like one that I just kinda relate to the guy a lot when I watch is The Devil and Daniel Johnson. It was a person
Ooh.
I never knew. Do you know about that? Have you seen that? Have you heard about this?
I Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
Have you heard about
Um,
this?
I didn't see it, but I've heard about it.
Mhm. Do you know Daniel Johnson, though?
No.
He was just like this guy who definitely had his issues, but, he wrote these beautiful songs and he was not a great singer, but they were like these just almost musical quality songs that were very simple, but I don't know how to describe other than just like these bare bones full of heart songs. And that's a documentary, you've given me a bunch to watch. That's the one I'm gonna send your way.
I'm gonna have to write it down. Okay. I'm in. I'm especially now that I'm getting into documentaries more, I'm ready for some new content. So, uh, moving on to other new content, talk about international feature film. So, I got some thoughts here because I almost have as much guff with what missed the cut as much as what made the cut. After seeing a unusual amount of, maybe unusual for any other year, or just the fact that international features are becoming more watched, but this year we had nominated Drive My Car, Flee again, Fleet is just for everyone else's awareness. It's a animated documentary foreign film. So it got nominated for 3 categories. You're gonna hear it come up a couple more times,
Mhm.
but since we led the way with that one, then we had The Hand of God, Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom, and The Worst Person in the World.
Which is me, who didn't watch it today.
Oh, bummer. It I think we could have had a good conversation about it, but did you see Drive My Car?
I also did not. Those are the 2 I missed.
Good grief.
I know I'm the
Because
worst person in the podcast.
the worst person in the podcast. Um,
Well,
do
I'm
you see
just gonna I just wanna say real quick, I should have
Yeah.
taken a note from your book. I should have just gone to see Drive My Car because it was very daunting to watch at home.
Yeah.
Mhm. I'm kinda like when Parasite came out, I was like, I need to go to a theater because I do struggle. Like, I didn't grow up watching a lot of foreign films, so I'm just not really used to doing the subtitle thing. But now I'm like, at it's more like back in the day, I probably had a problem with it, like in high school. But now it's like, oh, you don't have a problem with it. You have to remember that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I do remember having some uh, just sort of reluctance to step into the world of subtitles. Even back to like, ironically talking about anime was our first episode,
Right.
but I remember just having a reluctance, like I don't want to read because I'm going to miss the action of what's going on. And I felt like that was a real crappy attitude. Even at the time, I knew it was a crappy attitude.
For sure.
But it's still something that I think kinda sticks in the back of my head, and it almost kinda makes me like, I kinda wanna pursue learning some of these languages so that I can just watch it and understand, like, what they're saying, like, watching a couple, movies now in Spanish, which I've been studying a little bit, like, it's a lot easier to kinda be like, "Okay, I'm gonna see if I can understand first and then rely on the subtitle to help fill in the blanks." Because then it's a much more enjoyable experience. I can actually, like, really focus on what's happening and not have to try and read and then see what's happening in the scene. But for anybody else, I think it's a minimal and barrier to you. You can still get the chunk in the movie, and I loved Drive My Car. It's a borderline one of the tops of my list, and I won't show my hand too much here, but it it's definitely the one I think will win this category.
Yeah, I will definitely be checking out before the actual Oscars happen, but, I definitely have heard a lot of buzz about it.
Yeah. I would still say Worst Person in the World is still worth checking out. Um, I did not like The Hand of God. I thought it was a very contrived, overly artsy movie. Ugh. I, I,
Mhm,
c- I think what upsets me about The Hand of God is not that it was a bad movie, but that it just didn't feel like one of the best movies of the year. And it upset me because I also watched Titan and Benedetta. And I'm
uh-huh.
like, What happened here?"
Yeah,
Like
Benedetta was a movie I could have definitely gotten behind for a best foreign film for sure.
yeah, and I do wanna spend some time talking about both of those as coulda, woulda, shouldas, because I think either of those
Mhm.
easily could have snuck in to at least be nominated.
Yeah, I have one
Or
as well for foreign too.
good. What do you got?
I'm gonna go with what I watched this weekend, which was Riders of Justice, the Mads Mikkelsen movie. I
Oh,
don't know, like, I'm only throwing out there because of the few foreign films I watch, but I have it as, like, in my original screenplay noms, the script for that, because
wow.
it's a study on vengeance,
Hmm.
similar to the Batman, but,
I'm
we
vengeance.
won't talk about the Batman on this podcast, but,
Oh, no, we got another one coming for that one. Spoiler alert,
Hey,
or I
hey,
should say
hey,
teaser.
take it easy, sweetheart.
Sweet
But
bubs.
Riders of Justice is a real study of revenge and vengeance, and you get to have your cake and eat it too, because you get to see Mads Mikkelsen have these like action taken moments, which is amazing.
Mhm.
But then it's also like But revenge though, is it really good? And it
Yeah.
does that well. You know how some movies try to do that and you're like, "No, no, 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 you can't give me both." But I think this movie really does because there's consequences to the physical, acts of revenge, and it also just it's a math movie too.
Oh.
I don't know if that gets you excited, but
I mean, I love me some math, but I love me some mads more than anything
Ooh,
else.
and he's
And
he's chonky in it, like, he's thick.
ooh, okay. I can dig that. I can dig it. I'll have to definitely check that one out because at some point I'll probably do a whole Mads Mikkelsen run from start to finish, including Hannibal and everything else that he's done. Because such a huge fan. But that's a good one to throw in here. Um,
It's on, like, Hulu and Prime as well too, so it's easily
I
accessible.
did see it on Hulu. Okay. Yep. Maybe I'll sneak that in before the weekend. We'll see. I got catch a couple more Oscar nominees just
For
to make
sure,
sure
you
I'm
can
up.
save it because it didn't make it, but I would
Yeah.
recommend watching it.
Well, I mean, and we should say here and now, the movies that we're talking about as coulda, woulda, shoulda are there for a reason. Like, and I want to talk about Benedetta because I was very, very surprised to learn that that was based on a true story.
Right. Very loosely, but it is a true story.
Either way, it sounds like Verhoeven did not stray terribly far from the article that it was based on, even though obviously it's playing up a lot of what was going on.
But you have to
um,
admit, when you watched that movie, it was way more reserved than you thought it was gonna be.
yeah, I do. I mean, listen, when you come across a movie that is about a lesbian nun in the Italian Renaissance, you kind of expect all bets are off. But in that way, it was very interesting to see what the progression was. I don't know that it was, better than anything else. It's better than Hand of God. I'll put it that way.
Ah.
Um, the other movies though, I think I'll just speak to these, quickly. Hand of God. It's just about. It's a very loosely about movies, and it's about living in Italy and being a youth who's kind of been pampered and sort of has to be thrown into the world very suddenly. It's not a bad story. I just didn't think it was the top 5 at all. It's one of those it's kind of the nightmare alley of its, category there. Which another teaser. But Lunana, a Yak in the Classroom is a wonderful film. Very, very nice watch. Worst person in the world will speak to every millennial, I think, on some level.
I
Anybody
got
under
those
the
vibes.
anybody under the age of 35, I think, is gonna have something to relate to in that movie. But I could go off about Drive My Car. I think that will win. I think it should win. It and Flea are the hands down best of that category, in my opinion. But Drive My Car, I think even on the merits of if Flea already winning documentary in our world, I would put Drive My Car over it.
Definitely, I'm
Uh,
very excited to check it out before the Oscars.
are you familiar with Titan though?
No, but that's another one that's on the list that I hope to sneak in.
I think this is one that's gonna start sneaking up on people a little bit because it won the Palme d'Or. And I think that's what surprised a lot of people that it didn't get nominated for at least Best International Feature.
But this
Um,
is like the stuffy academy, and from what I hear about this movie, it's wild.
it is very wild. I mean, it is about a woman who has a affinity for cars in a very sexual manner that kind of leads her into a whole crazy situation of a man being reunited with his son after years of him being lost. Um, this woman is a serial killer, and it leads to some crazy situations. There is an actor in this movie, Vincent Linden, who plays the character of Vincent, is excellent. Just a great performance. I totally missed him on the list, but he somehow grounds it in this reality, and you're like, when is this dude doing it? What other movies is he in? Like, it was one of those types of performances. Very good.
Definitely that one because that's streaming, right?
That is streaming on the Hulus
Nice.
and maybe Prime. I don't know.
Hmm.
But, I would just say, yeah, I'd encourage people, check out your international features. You're gonna be very surprised. It's a very strong crop
Yeah,
overall.
and you said, also I'm just trying to help you out, Benedetta's streaming too, right?
It is Hulu.
Yeah, it's got the Merovingian in it, guys, so check it out.
What a surprise that was. That was great. I loved it.
He's kind of the same guy in it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
A little different.
There's that energy there.
Mhm.
He's got that same energy, that's for sure.
I watched, Matrix Reloaded yesterday.
Oh, I love
I'm
it.
sorry, I should have been no, I put it on when I was going to bed, to be fair.
Fred, we're gonna set a record here for I think our episode length this time, which is good because this is a lot of good conversation
Mhm.
going on.
But we're narrowing down. We're down to the big ones, aren't we?
We got animated movie to talk about
Oh.
next, which I do want to spend a little time talking about. How'd you feel about the animated crop?
I was very into all of them. Mitchell's versus the Machines does
Mm,
that thing that I love in all modern animation that we're seeing more and more of, especially like in the most recent Turning Red, which is just because you can animate something realistically doesn't mean you can't add little embellishments and use the form. Does that make
mhm.
sense? Like Mitchell's Machines, their eyes bug out. There's great, almost anime style animations. You
Yes.
know, it's not just about making it look real. It's about how can we effectively tell a story through animation.
Yeah, it's a definitely surprising movie. Just because it's a different feel than anything that Disney did. And to run down the nominees, we had Encanto from Disney. We had Flea again, Luca from Pixar, Mitchell's versus the Machines from Sony, and Raya and the Last Dragon from Disney. All of which are good, but man, yeah, there's something about that Mitchell's versus the Machines that it felt great.
Yeah, I think that's the one that I think should win. The first time I saw Encanto, I was not super about it because I really didn't like the opening song. I thought it was kind of not great compared to some of like when I look at like Moana, like the songs in that really slap. But
Yeah.
then I kind of came around on it and I like more of the songs.
Yeah, they do catch you a little bit more. They got that Lin Man kinda I don't know, kinda catches you in its snare after a while, and you're like, "Oh, okay, okay, we're not talking about Bruno, you're right."
Yeah, I just pressure like a grip, na, 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 na. Man, when those donkeys are like coming down in slow motion in the Encanto song, I love it.
That movie, it's delightful. It's I don't know. I liked it. I liked it all. I mean, I liked them all. What do you think will win out of all of them, though?
It's gonna be Encanto probably,
Yeah.
but I would love the upset of the Lord and Miller, you know?
Yeah. I think the only thing stopping Flea from winning this category is that it's probably gonna win a different category. But
Right.
and the Academy won't ever cross those over. They won't cross the lines like that, even if it's that good.
Well, also, they're probably already like, "Well, is it an animation or is it a docu?" You know, like, a lot of them are
Yeah.
probably split on the just the, categorization of it.
And that actually was my whole actually deciding factor. I was like, okay, rather than be that kind of bullshitty the way that a actual judge would be, I was trying to say, well, what does this movie do best? It's a documentary, it's international feature just by the nature of whose story it is, and it was animated to help disguise the identity. I think the animation, like we talked about, it's good, but it's nothing like mind blowing. So I was like, for an animated feature, I wouldn't give this the best animated, but it's an incredible story. So for a documentary, I think it's the best example of that.
For sure.
Yeah. So um I agree. Kano will win. Flea could win, maybe just by that, but I like that upset of
And
that
you and
that
I will be
Mitchell's.
jumping and dancing when Mitchells versus the Machines wins in an upset.
Yes, indeed. Were there any other animated movies this year? I have 2 to talk about very briefly.
Nothing that I would give for animation, but I did have for like my for original screenplay, I had Luca in there.
Oh, Luca was a fun movie. Not
Right.
Pixar's best, but it was still enjoyable.
Mhm. That
Um,
pasta in that looked really good.
they do make food look good, and which is also kind of an anime thing. They always make things look good. And the other animated picture I wanted to mention because it actually counts was Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0.
What is
This is the
this?
fourth installment of the Neon Genesis Evangelion series. They're reboot movies. It's so incredibly difficult to explain. This will require its own podcast someday
Is this
because
some
I don't.
anime stuff?
This is some anime stuff. We're talking about Japan animation. And then Sing 2. I heard some people liked it. I didn't see it.
We watched Sing 1 like a while ago cuz I'm like it's all going to be like songs I know and the animals are going to be cute, but didn't really cut it for me, but I will say I almost gave best picture to the Sing 2 trailer. Do you
Oh,
remember that trailer for Sing 2?
I do because the Bono reveal was so mind blowing.
It is, and it's like this contained little movie almost. I everyone just go watch the Sing 2 trailer and tell me that doesn't deserve a best picture nomination.
It probably does.
In my Facebook there's a post where I literally say that, and I remember posting that, and it got 0 likes.
That's unfortunate because it really was a catchy trailer. If you're going to sell somebody on something, you do need that kind of hook that it had, and it had everything. Um, Before we get to our next segment, Fred, we actually had a couple people call in and leave us some voicemails to talk to us about their best or I should say their favorite films of the year with some pleas for what should have won or what could have been nominated. And I just wanted to leave some time to play a couple of these now, and maybe then we can react and get into our final discussion on the best picture category.
Sounds good to me.
Hey, this is Joe Francisco, friend of the pod, and my favorite movie of the last year was Spider Man No Way Home. I thought it did a great job at tying in all the various Spider Men of the past decade and weaving in all of the villain plot lines, having a lot of great little stories for all the other Spider-Man and villains that I think having that all in one movie, they just did such a great job at kind of expertly having that balance of the overarching plot and then like the mini threads that each character went through in the movie.
I'm Lainey from Wauwatosa. I thought Coda was the best movie of the year. I thought it was a really intimate and humorous portrayal of a family that loved each other a lot, but was going through something really challenging. It was a story that's familiar, but told in a way that I hadn't really ever seen before.
Hey everyone, my name is Shannon. As for my favorite, honestly, it's so hard to pick. I don't think I have an overwhelming favorite because I enjoyed so many of them, which is kind of rare. I feel like usually I walk away with thinking like, nope, this one's my favorite. I know it's not going to win, but yeah, I enjoyed so many of them. I think for my favorite, I'll pick what I could rewatch on repeat, which is probably Coda. So I'm going to go with that one.
My name's Peter, and I thought Shang-Chi was excellent.
This is Jenny from Wauwatosa, and my favorite Oscar film was one that the actor was nominated, but the film wasn't nominated, and it was Tick Tick Boom. I thought it was great. It was interesting. It is the one. It sort of follows the one man show of Jonathan Larson, who wrote Rent, and had no idea that he had this. You know, it was just interesting to see his background. And interesting to hear him, you know, the process. And Andrew Garfield does an amazing job as Jonathan Larson in that film. And I've been listening to the soundtrack nonstop since I've watched that film, and I can't get it out of my head. So that's been my favorite pick this year. I'm Jasmine from Milwaukee, and the Oscars pool this year was incredibly stacked. There were so many movies across so many categories, so it was really hard to pick what my favorite was. But ultimately, I gotta say that my favorite was actually The Mitchells versus the Machines in the animated features section. It is just such a heartwarming movie about a totally oddball family and this really like insane kind of situation they're in and how they overcome that together along with their own internal family struggles. But what really got me was just some of the jokes. They were so funny, like belly laugh, hilarious. And I don't think I've really experienced a movie that's like moved me that emotionally in quite a while. So that's my favorite.
All right. So I thought the most interesting one that was brought up there, somebody mentioned Tick Tick Boom, which I was surprised didn't get nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, you don't hear people talking about the movie as much, just the performance, but I think for a first time directing, it's a really well directed movie.
Yeah. I thought it was a very good first effort for Lynn, and I mean, I didn't think it was gonna win, but definitely a movie that I thought blended a lot of good stuff, kinda held him, you know, exactly where he belongs, right? Just sort of in his wheelhouse with musical and just big performances.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and very New York.
very New York. But yeah, I mean, we heard a couple other great ones too. Mitchell's versus the Machines, we just talked about. We
Shang-Chi.
heard Shang-Chi, which first mention of that one, which we talked a lot about No Way Home, but Shang-Chi was great.
For sure. I mean, I think Simu Liu, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah,
I've
I think
never
so.
seen him before, and I'm like, more of him because he had comedic and just good guy energy, and it wasn't like someone else's comedic good guy energy we have already seen. Kind of like how
Mhm.
Benedict Cumberbatch is kind of doing Tony Stark.
A little bit, right? Yeah, he's kinda
Mhm.
got that energy that Robert Downey Jr. brings. It's like second episode in a row that Robert Downey Jr. is getting a shout out. um, but yeah, a lot of good picks. So thanks everybody for calling in and submitting those. We also ran a poll on our Facebook page and asked people, what they thought too. A lot of people liked Coda to win Best Picture. They also like Coda as a movie that they wanted to win Best Picture, but also Dune was one that a lot of people thought. Uh, so just to run through the list of nominees for Best Picture this year, we have Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. And yeah, our group really liked those movies. We'll kind of get into the whole coulda, woulda, shouldas, but first, what were you liking in this group, Fred?
I mean, I think this is a pretty strong group. I did like Licorice Pizza, but I feel we both didn't talk about too much because we weren't enamored with it, but we definitely liked it. Right?
Hmm.
Was that your vibe? I am very much about West Side Story and Power of the Dog on the list. Those are the two for me that are gonna win. But I also, not that I would want to win, I mean, but what I keep hearing, the big vibe is Coda's gonna come and sweep this thing, which I think Coda is a good movie, but I also think half of it is a by the books person trying to make it a music movie, and the other half is this great family story. And I
Hmm.
kind of wish it was just the one and not the other.
For sure.
As
I
much
feel
as I
that.
love a movie like that, I think that was not like that interesting to me.
No, I definitely liked the family story. I liked how it came together at the end. I
Right.
mean, man, Coda, it definitely can win. Debatable if it should.
Right. It's very much like an old person Oscar pick. It also feels just
Yeah.
kind of like a 90s Oscar movie in a way, too.
It does. It does have that energy, but it was so good too. The performances, we already talked about Troy Kotzer being very good in that. Um, it's a story that we've never seen before either, and I think that's what I like the most about it. We've heard of, children of deaf adults. We've heard, I mean, there was a story about that back when Sound of Metal came out. One of the actors was a coda who played a deaf person in that movie and, did a very good portrayal. But then it was even a bigger experience to see some actual, people who had, you know, they were deaf playing, deaf people. It's just felt more real.
Yeah, and I hope this comes across in the best way possible, but I think there's something to having deaf people who have to express with their hands and like almost emotive faces.
Hmm.
I feel like they almost have like this great upper hand to being great actors because watching Troy Kotzer do his like sign language and his expressions, just everything he's doing, I'm just like everything is heightened because they're used to having to get information across to maybe people who don't sign language.
Yeah. And I mean, it was great representation. It was great performances up and down the board. I mean, Marley Matlin is someone we didn't talk about in the Best Actress category, but probably could have gotten one.
For sure.
She's
That's the
already an
thing with
Oscar
that
winner.
movie. The
Yeah.
acting's kind of top notch across the board. I could see anyone really of the family group. I think the brother is excellent in it.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, really, there wasn't a weak performance in the movie, and usually that leads to good results, which could lead to a win this year. Uh, Fred, you brought up Licorice Pizza. I have something to share with you because I had a dream last night that I had to give a review of the movie Licorice Pizza. I'm throwing you the biggest curveball of all time here, but I'm going to read what my review was. I woke up in the middle of the night laughing because I wrote this review down. I'm really 2 in the morning, woke up and wrote this down.
I'm ready.
It goes like this. Licorice Pizza is a movie made by aliens for aliens, and you can't convince me otherwise. If you replaced every character in the movie with the same hairless actor, the movie flows seamlessly as the greatest alien adventure of all time. Imagine using somebody like Anthony Kerrigan, who plays NoHo Hank in Barry, as your every actor in the movie.
Oh my god. Uh, that kind of makes sense, but it also really doesn't. I'm a little worried for you, but I think as part of the podcast, I think Tom needs to start keeping a dream journal and we'll just get excerpts here and there, movie reviews, takes on life.
I'd be happy to share that. I just, I wish I could illustrate how funny it was to even then see a still from the movie where it literally is just NoHo Hank as like the Bradley Cooper character talking back to NoHo Hank. Uh, uh, the weird part about that, despite it not being at all accurate, is the fact that Licorice Pizza is a very weird movie,
For sure.
which all Paul Thomas Anderson movies are weird movies. Some of them are brilliant in their weirdness. Some of them are just, I don't know. What were your thoughts? I mean, you said you and I talked separately about this, but to share our thoughts on air, a real review that's not influenced by a dream.
Well, my review is kind of bullshit, but here's the deal. I think I like that movie for reasons Paul Thomas Anderson didn't necessarily mean or
Yeah,
to get hung up on. I like that movie because I'm a Kevin Smith fan. I've been hearing the John Pierce story on his talks, on his podcast all this time. And it's literally like PTA like watched those and took notes and used it. And I'm also a person who have seen all 11 seasons of Frasier multiple times. Like that's always my comfortable throw on. And
yeah,
having him just like do BB Newirth, like, and they're not BB Newirth, that's the actress who plays Frasier's ex-wife, but
yeah,
have BB the agent just be in a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, which I know PTA is that guy. He is the
yeah,
guy who was like, I really like her in Frasier. I'm gonna write her a little role that's similar, but it's gonna be in my movie. Like I feel he's that guy. Like so it's kind of like I like that movie for those two big reasons, and everything else is okay.
yeah. I totally. track with what you're saying there. I think there's a lot of great performances. I would even give a shout out to Alana Haim. I didn't think it was one of the best of the year, but I think she's somebody to watch going forward.
For sure.
Um,
I'd be very interested to see her next movie that isn't so tied to like her family and Hollywood. And like I would like to see something kind of stripped away from who she is, which I have a feeling she could do.
yeah, I think she's capable. See Philip Seymour Hoffman's kid jumping into a role, definitely a very interesting thing too. Um, I mean, it had that Paul Thomas Anderson flair without the substance, and that,
And the runtime. It's a
yeah,
pretty quick flick, and I like that.
yeah, which is good. I just it danced a very sensitive line, which the movie knew it was doing, and then I felt like just kind of gave up at the end, and that left a little sour taste in my mouth.
For sure.
Yeah. Um, you've kind of given a couple thoughts on King Richard, but you want to share maybe just a little bit more of like what was your overall feel on that
Ov-
movie?
Overall feel, I almost feel like it should have been two movies or a series. I think it would have been a great series where like the first half is kind of this dad who's trying to make it happen. He's not like 100% in the right at all. He's kind of a rough character and not
Mm-hmm.
all there, but he's driven and he's interesting. And I feel like that's one movie. And then the second movie is this great movie with John Barenthal, like training young Venus and Serena Williams, like that has these great set pieces that are the tennis matches. And they
mm.
feel, like I said, like you're watching Friday Night Lights, movie I've never seen, but I assume that's what it feels like.
I mean, if we're talking about the TV series, then I can definitely relate. But that's something that I think you want out of the movie when you go into it, though, right? It's like you want to see these great performances of this experience that this family went through and how they even came to be. And yeah, it's a nice way to, I don't know, just make sports exciting again because we don't get outside of Moneyball. What was that? 10 years ago we were talking about. We don't get a lot of these that are sports related stories that don't feel as schmaltzy as like The Blind Side, you know?
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's
well,
my
good.
big takeaway of it. It's good, but like, man, it could have been a great 6-part series or something like
Yeah.
that.
I'll look forward to watching it later this week and really giving my judgment then. Because the next movie I'll get into and get my take is on Drive My Car and finally give the inside out on this because I didn't expect what we got. When you read a title called Drive My Car, you think it's going to be very, I don't know, maybe a little more like edge, like kind of maybe there's like some kind of like stunt implication or, or maybe it is a little driving Miss Daisy, which to be honest, there is a little bit of that element to it
Well, the cover
without,
has that vibe very much.
yeah, but without any of that kind of history that Driving Miss Daisy has. It is absolutely the furthest thing from that movie. In fact, it's also another movie that involves a deaf character, or I don't, actually the character is not deaf, but they are using Korean sign language in the movie.
Oh, wow.
So an interesting connection back to Coda to see two movies prominently use sign language as a form of communication. Truthfully, the movie is all about communication, and it's from the very beginning to the very end. It's a very subtle way to approach how we talk to each other as people, how our relationships kind of develop, who we become as we continue to talk with these people that we come to know so well, and even just people we've meet like by chance or because of circumstance. It's I mean, it's beautiful. Like, it's hard to say anything. I know that seems like a cheap, adjective to use for it, but the movie is 3 hours long and you could probably sit there and watch another hour of it.
Okay.
It's great.
Yeah, I
It's
definitely, like I said, I am going to be getting them in before the Oscars. It also didn't help I was sick this last week, and I feel like
yeah.
that being sick and tackling a subtitled film is kind of like another animal.
Well, you just don't want to focus that if you got like a headache or something like
No,
that,
I
right?
wanted to watch Matrix Reloaded.
Which is much more in line with what you need. But yeah, I drive my car. I think it's a great, it's a Japanese film. The subtitles don't intrude at all because the movie relies on all these different types of communication. It's very much into a story about a person who is putting on a stage play in Hiroshima and just kind of how his life led him there and what his experiences there bring to him. And I'll
And
leave it at that.
it's on HBO Max too. And
Yep.
I will say you do have to turn on the subtitles. It won't do it
Yeah.
for you.
I find that a lot with some movies recently. Even watching Worst Person in the World yesterday on Prime. We started watching it and we're like, there should be subtitles, right? Yeah, they're not doing that. We had to rewind like 3 minutes to go
Right.
back and find it. Um, let's keep going though. Let's talk Dune.
Dune. Dune is the movie
Dune.
I trekked and kept track of how many seats were filled at the ultra screen because I was like, "There's only one way I'm Duning in this." That work?
You were doing
There's
it.
only one way I'm getting this Dune, and that's on the big screen.
Oh, these puns are killing me, man, but I love it. Uh, do you like it?
I loved it, and I'd kinda like I was like, I know I'm gonna have to see this, but I kinda get bored out by hard sci-fi, like, I struggle
Yeah.
with a lot of that, and this is kinda like, this is the text, this is, like, the OG stuff, this is like John Carter from Mars, kinda, you know?
Yeah.
And,
It's
it held my attention, I think the score I know we're not gonna open that up really because we don't have time, but I will say, man, I love me some throat singing.
oh yeah. There was something very beautiful. Again, there's that word. But it was a beautifully shot movie. Cause you think about obviously the most popular sci-fi desert movie, Star Wars, and we seem to cannot get off of Tatooine for whatever reason. There's a whole universe to explore, and we're spending time on the same goddamn
Well,
planet.
they get there's great tax breaks to shoot on Tatooine compared to some of the other planets.
I suppose that's true, right?
It's like shooting in Atlanta, Tatooine.
Yeah. Tatooine is the Atlanta of uh, the galaxy far, far away. We're gonna have Donald Glover show up.
I like it.
Actually, he
He
did
already
show up on
did.
Tatooine. Oh, he's gonna be a good Lando again. I'm excited for his return.
For sure.
But yeah, I really liked Dune. It doesn't hit you over the head. Once part two comes out, I'm excited to revisit David Lynch's version just to see if maybe that makes more sense because he very much lynched that thing.
Well, it's kind of
Um,
funny. I think I told you that I fell asleep at the perfect time watching the Lynch version because I didn't realize that it told the whole story, or at least tries
yeah,
to. So I still have half of that movie to watch. But I'll tell you this: I like the first half.
yeah.
It helps.
Well, I mean,
Okay, it helps that if you watch the Villeneuve version, he's really good at telling the story. So I had all that information, which helped.
yeah.
But
No, Villeneuve definitely. He brings a different kind of art to it that I think Lynch wanted to do, but when Lynch goes full Lynch, he tends to make something that he thinks is just the greatest thing he's ever seen, and he leaves everybody else going, "What is happening?" I mean, that's Twin Peaks in a nutshell. It's beautiful, it's crazy, but you're along for the ride, and I'm excited to revisit that train. But great roles in this Dune movie. Little of the Timothée Ferguson we talked about. Momoa we gotta bring up because
yeah, he's great, I think, in that.
that was one of the roles I was like, maybe Jason Momoa, Jason, he's good. I think he
Mhm.
gets it. I think he's in there.
For sure. I liked David Dashmelson. I can't think he's Mr. Polka
Yeah.
Dot Man. He's always good. And he's kind of
S-
a Denis Villeneuve regular. He was in Prisoners, I know.
Yeah. Is it Villeneuve or is it Villeneuve?
Denis Villeneuve, I believe, is right. But
Via
I Villeneuve. something like that.
Vienna. Oh goodness. All right. Well, we apologize, sir. You are a wonderful filmmaker. I love Blade Runner 2041.
For
Um,
sure.
outside of that, though, Stellan Skarsgård also great,
Mm.
and I mean Oscar Isaac's like top build, but maybe like the seventh most important person in the movie.
But the first most handsome. He's a very
Absolutely,
handsome man in that.
he's
Uh,
second to
I
none.
liked Javier Bardem coming in, but I feel like we're really gonna get that goodness in the second
Yeah,
part.
yeah. He was a little like just a little a taste of what
Mhm.
was to come.
And
Him and Zendaya. Yeah,
right, and I'm just gonna say, and I don't think we can hate on too much. The only thing I would poke at that movie is it's definitely half of a movie.
it is. It's an incomplete story, and it leaves you wanting more, which it should. But it's also like I don't know. Maybe it could have been a series too, but everything could be. Let's tackle Don't Look Up.
And I liked Vice. I'm gonna
I
say
liked
that.
advice. Okay.
I liked Vice, and I liked The Big Short.
Okay.
I didn't think Don't Look Up was. I thought Don't Look Up. Don't look at this movie. I think the performances are good, and maybe I'll just leave it
hmm
at that.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Performances are good. This is a movie. I think once I heard all the lashback, it was better to have that coming in to not expect too much because then I could kind of take the movie for what it was. But when the movie kind of spins from being about, oh, we don't care about climate control to, or yeah, about, global warming to, well, we don't care about anything. It really, really hits you over the head. And it's tough because it's like there's validity, but it's also eccentric in that very Adam McKay way. And I don't
You
know.
know who should have taken a pass at this? And I will say their show is not my favorite, but I think they could have handled this really well. Is Trey Parker and Matt Stone?
Oh man.
I think it needed kind of that flippant. I'm not on anyone's side. I'm gonna make fun of all your dumbasses. It tried
Yeah.
to do that, but it just doesn't do it as well as they do it.
Right. No, and that's I think that's actually a good call. You did need that cynical satire here, which it's cynical, but it's also preachy in a very obtuse way. And
Right, and that's why as much as I have faults with the South Park show, I feel like when they like the South Park movie is great
yeah.
at that
Or
exact
Book of
thing.
Mormon
Book of
is
Mormon, did you see Book of
great.
Mormon?
Yes.
Oh yeah. I wish they would do a film adaptation of that.
What I loved what they did in Book of Mormon, which is not a movie or anything, yeah, like you said. But I love that they point out the obvious flaws in Mormonism with also kind of making you sort of pity the people that are involved with it a little bit, or just maybe not pity, but just sort of empathize with the fact that it's like this is sort of they're caught up in this. They don't quite
Mhm.
know another way. It's just they're kind
Right.
of fed this bullshit, and
I just really want the Book of Mormon to hit the community theater realm so I can just audition for the Josh Gad role just because I think I could do that.
you'd crush it, man. It'd be so good. You want to buy a book? It's about Jesus.
I'm about to do it for the first time, and I'm about to do it with a girl, special girl. I love
We're
it.
submitting this as your audition tape.
Yeah.
Um, I'll throw another one out there that could have done that movie maybe a little more tastefully, and it's a little different. Like Judge.
Oh yeah, that's the better choice. Probably that's the choice I would put money on.
Yeah, we need some more Mike Judge. I hear he's reviving Beavis and Butthead again, which I'm always here for more Beavis and Butthead, but I want to see him do something original because I don't know.
I miss
He hasn't done
Beavis and
anything for a
Butthead
while.
because when I wanted to watch it, my parents wouldn't
hmm
let me, and when I could watch it, I kind of felt like I missed it.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, that's kind of where my camp was too. It was I could watch it when I wasn't being monitored as closely, and then yeah, parents were having that. We talked a little bit about Power of the Dog because I don't want to get too into anything we talked about already. Belfast, we talked a little about the Van Morrison of it all. Great performances in that though too. I mean, we talked about Kieran Hines and um Nightmare Alley. We mentioned that. I kind of dogged it a little bit.
I
It's
think
not
it's
Guillermo's
it's
best
a pretty
effort.
good script, and I like the turn of what happens, but yeah, it's a little long. Like if that was an hour and a half tight, more abstract movie, I think
Yep.
that would have been my best picture choice because it's like
Yeah.
hitting so many notes for me. But yeah, it's lengthy and it just isn't as like it just he's not bringing it like he did with Shape of Water with the
No.
aesthetics.
He had a whole different thing going with Shape of Water that felt like you were really in this world where, yeah, I don't know. Nightmare Alley felt too kind of like, this is the old America, and we're dealing with a kind of indescript time period. I don't know. It's it's a good movie. It's another one that I would say I would have loved to have made room for some other movies. We'll get to that in one last second here. But what do you think about West Side Story? We talked a bit about, but let's talk a little more.
I
What?
would I would say, that I don't wanna open the can of worms. We didn't really focus on, director, like, best director, but my kind of split, and this might be jumping ahead of time a bit, but I think I'll just put my cards on the table. I give best director, West Side Story, Steven Spielberg, best picture, Power of the Dog. That's how I
Mm,
do it
okay.
because I think the filmmaking in West Side Story is the best directing of the lot. The way he moves the camera, I'm gonna cite the Officer Krupke scene is
Yeah.
just a great use of camera, and when people dance, it looks unhuman
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
in the best way.
I loved, and I don't know how this compared to In the Heights, so maybe you'll provide that, but I find that in a lot of musical movies, it still feels like you're watching something on stage. Whereas I felt like in West Side Story here, I loved that it felt like you were in New York and you were in that time period and you were in a place like it kind of showed it right away from them in like the junkyard, and you're like, whoa, okay, we're out here.
I've watched the Junkyard opening 5 times.
Man, West Side Story was wonderful. I love the original. I recognize some of the pitfalls of that, specifically the fact that we had uh, race
Greeks.
inappropriate people playing Puerto Ricans. Um, but yeah, this just hit. It really brought all the notes that West Side Story should represent to the forefront.
And it kinda stinks that In the Heights came out the same year because I feel John Chu does a lot of the similar moves because it's New York, it's a musical, but he
Mhm.
also does these great abstract things, like, I know it was in the trailer, like, Anthony Ramos does, like, the DJ "woo woo woo woo" on a, sewer grate,
Oh.
and it actually spins, and people, like, dance on the walls in that movie, and it's very this big, abstract, beautiful thing. And I'm just surprised that's another one I'm gonna slot in for best director, but not picture. I would put In the Heights for directing too.
Little true action,
Oh
which
yeah, I'm
I'm
very
always
excited.
here
He's
for.
tackling another big musical that are like kind of an adaptation. I'll pull it up if you wanna
It's
hit
not
it
Book
for
of
a little
Mormon.
while, but I am curious.
Yeah. Yeah, while you're doing that, I think we we talked a little bit about, yeah, Belfast. I don't think there's a lot to say. It's fine. It's a good movie. It's an interesting story.
I don't know, Kenneth Branagh's mustache in that one just wasn't selling it for me. He didn't accuse of anyone of murder in that one.
Yeah, I need everything to be Murder on the Nile, even though I haven't seen that yet, but
I
I'm
haven't
excited
seen
to
the
see
new
it.
one. The most problematic movie of 2022, right?
Yeah. And then we'll finish the nominees with Power of the Dog. So this is your will win?
This is what I would pick, and I don't think it's gonna win. I think it's gonna be Coda.
Ooh. Okay. I I liked Power of the Dog for the whole run to will win. Power of the Dog, I think what benefited my watch was I heard that there was some goofiness at the end that you had to watch out for, so I was kind of on the alert from the start.
I wish I had that.
When I got to the end, yeah, I was like, "Oh, o okay, wait," and then I piece it together, and I remember, and this is a tip for anybody watching the movie without spoiling anything, because I don't think we should spoil
No.
it. The very first line of the movie, remember it. It will make everything make sense at the end.
If you're watching it and you don't think things are happening, you're not watching close enough, is kind of the
Yeah.
vibe of this movie, which I think is a plus and a minus.
Yeah. I do agree with that. There's a lot to in this movie. We've talked about Benedict just hamming it up as a Yale man, just
Mhm.
playing as a cowboy, but I mean the performances are all great. Everybody got nominated and they should have.
Mhm. Yep.
Jesse Plemons may be questionable, but he's such a wonderful actor that it's again, where's his bar?
Jesse Plemons gave my favorite Jesse Plemons performance other than Breaking Bad in the new Netflix movie Windfall, which is
Oh,
him, Jason Segel, and I can't remember the actress's name, but it's a tight hour and a half movie on Netflix I really recommend.
I'm in for that then.
Jesse Plemons, that's probably my favorite of him. Again, other than, of course, him in Breaking Bad. I think he kinda, like, set the bar pretty high there. The
He was
John Chu
exceptional.
movie he's doing is Wicked.
A play I have not seen.
I have not seen it either, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah, that will be interesting to see. I just hope it's not like The Great and Powerful Oz. Um, let's wrap up our podcast here by talking about a couple movies. Although we're at our new record length here.
Hold on. Let's wrap this up right now. I'm saying this very loud so my fiance knows that we're ending. Because I told her 25 more minutes whenever that break was.
It was a little while ago. um, we are just going to talk about some movies that could have been nominated. We'll give some very brief thoughts, I think, on these. 'Cause, I mean, we've talked about a couple of them already. I did want to share first, though, that from our poll, though, from our responses, a couple of movies that people have mentioned or wanted to nominate if they could have. The Last Duel was
Ooh.
one. Old, which I don't know who submitted that one. The Tragedy of Macbeth
Okay.
and Pig.
Yep. Pig is on my best picture nom list too.
Yeah, I think Pig could have easily slid in there if anybody really gave it a look. I
Right. I
don't know.
think it deserves a solid nom. I would not give it a win, but definitely a nom.
About The Last Duel, you caught that right?
Last Duel I put under my adapted screenplay because I think the screenplay of it is really good, and I think it plays like a it's really the best of Ridley Scott. It's got, great, big ideas in it, but it's
Hmm.
also he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have a few scenes where people cut heads off because I know y'all like that shit."
That sounds like Ridley though, for sure.
Right.
Especially, yeah, every other movie he's done, there's always some kind of weird dismemberment.
Wait, Last Duel though, best mullet?
Best mullet?
Did you see
Maybe
Last Duel?
I didn't,
Oh, I would
but
just
I've
say
seen
Matt
the
Damon
poster.
kinda has, like, this mullet going. I would say best mullet.
That's perfect for him, though. I could actually like imagine him doing that for multiple movies. He kind of does that in. No, it's not a mullet. I was thinking of Euro Trip when he's playing like the
The
rocker on
rocker.
stage. It's kind of more of a mohawk.
And I would say if there was more room on my best supporting list, I really think Ben Affleck kills it. He's bringing his fuckboy energy, and he's just great.
Ugh, I suppose. Um, we should talk No Way Home. A lot of people have talked about why this movie didn't get nominated. Could it have been nominated? It's like the highest grossing movie of the past few years since Endgame. Eh, what are your thoughts?
No, because if you take all the stuff of multiple Spider-Man and the history of everything else, that movie is not that great. The story's not
Yeah,
that great. The big
I think
ending is whether they get into college. No, no, that's what I'm gonna say. This movie really just relies on Phantom, and it does this great math, like, kind of like algebra equation where it makes it work, but not a very good movie.
Mm, I agree to an extent. I think there's a lot to be said for a movie that people can enjoy, though. Even the people who recognize it's not the highest form of art enjoyed it. And it's fine, right? Because it's like it's a love letter to every Spider-Man movie that preceded it, even the ones that people didn't love. And it really tied up everything in a nice bow. But I think that's also part of why I wouldn't put it on there and why I kind of poo poo the people who say, oh, it should have been Best Picture. It's like you almost need to see every previous Spider Man movie to make this one work.
Mhm.
And I don't think it stands on its legs if you've only seen Spider Man 1 with Toby or the first two. And then, oh, I watched Endgame and Infinity War. So I saw the Tom Holland in that. It's like, I think you need to see every single Spider Man to really have this one resonate and understand the arcs that these characters are going through. But also then it's like it's juggling a lot and it's yeah, getting into college is the ultimate endpoint.
But I'm excited that it's set up for some New York Spider-Man movies. I'm
Yeah.
hoping.
We need some New York Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Again.
more I just need more guys like, "Yo, Spider-Man over there. Oh my god.
Hey Spider-Man, what you doing in here?
You messing with New York, you messing with all of us."
I do love the first Sam Raimi's. I'm excited for Doctor Strange too, just because that's Raimi back doing some crazy Raimi shit.
For sure.
I had a long list of movies. I don't know that either of them, though, I would have put in there. I didn't see French Dispatch, so I don't have the love affair with Wes Anderson that everyone else has. And I've never had that outside of Grand Budapest because that's a wonderful movie.
Right. Yeah, I saw French Dispatch in theaters with my friend who loves it, and we went home and we rented Old, and I was like after we watched it, I was like, "This was a better movie than your Wes Anderson movie, wasn't it?" And he had to say yes because it was. It was Isaac, I'll just say that.
There you go.
Future guest Isaac said, like, yeah, he loves Wes Anderson. And he was like, yeah, that movie was just kind of all sheen and no substance. And
Yeah.
when we watched Old, he was like, hell yeah.
All right. We'll talk a little old.
Well, I want to be
I
clear real quick before you say this.
yeah.
I'm gonna say I'm not giving it best picture on my list. I'm
Okay.
giving it a best director nom, and that's it because I think this movie
Mm,
shot super cool. There's great shots in it, and it just uses the camera really well.
okay. I'll give you some of that. There's some very interesting things that Shyamalan was doing with it, and the most prominent acting role for him to date. Very surprising.
Other than Praying with Anger, which he starred in.
Oh, that okay. There you go. Most prominent of like
The
I don't know.
Shyamalan movies.
Like yeah, the Shyamalan movies. I liked Old. I didn't love Old. I didn't hate Old. It's maybe the only M Night movie I can think of where I didn't either have a very sour taste in my mouth at the end, or that I was over the moon with. Because that's basically every other movie of his I've watched. I loved Unbreakable. I hated The Village. I loved Signs. I hated um what was the other one?
The
Oh,
Happening.
the Nope, didn't see it. Glass. I did
Uh,
not enjoy that at all. I loved Split. I mean, it's always been that big seesaw, but yeah, this one felt firm in the middle. I didn't love some of the acting performances. I loved some of the ideas that this movie was in. I loved the casting of the kids growing up. That was great. Perfectly, like, very interesting story that he didn't ruin and he didn't kill it. That's where I was at.
mhm. And I just some solid I don't know, because you watched it at home, I got to see theaters. Had
Mhm.
like, there's a moment with the, woman who's about her appearance. Her
Mm.
horror scene, I think, is straight disturbing.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Mhm.
She's she's a pretty interesting actress. She showed up in a couple things this past year, Lovecraft Country and a couple other things. And Abby Lee, yeah, that's her name. She's she's definitely another one to keep an eye on. We'll see.
Mhm.
I haven't seen a great performance from her so far, but she looks like she's got chops.
For sure.
She's one of the wives from Mad Max Fury Road. And if
Oh,
you
okay.
start looking at that list of like these, a lot of women who didn't get a lot to do in that movie, all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's Riley Keough, there's Zoe Kravitz.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay, so they're all kind of blossoming. I think that's pretty much at the end of our thing. Any other movies or anything else you want to give a shout out to, Fred?
No, I think we better wrap it up. I gotta give the bedroom back to my, fiance so she can go to work, and make money,
Yeah,
support us, unlike, what we're doing.
I get it. I get it.
No, but this has been
Um,
great though. We've been looking forward to this and it was super fun. Of course, it's our longest episode.
yeah, it was an easy accomplishment to get to this length. Thanks for sticking with us through this whole episode. Fred, anything you want to plug quick before we wrap up?
Definitely. I have a show this Saturday. Let me pull up Saturday, the 26th at the Interchange Theater. Go to the Interchange Theater website. I'll be doing short form comedy with Glitter Bomb. Come see me perform. It's my first show back in a long time.
Ooh, Freddie on stage to the interchangetheater.com if you want to get tickets for that show on Saturday night, the 26th of March. And all the other thing I'll plug is if you are enjoying listening to this show and you want to donate and help us keep it going, all funds are going right back into the show. We're just using it to buy better equipment, buy a better studio space, everything we can put our hands on to give you a better product. It's buymeacoffee.com/SOTF. And stay tuned for next time. We'll be talking Wayne's World.
Wayne's
I don't know,
World.
really harmonized that kind of oddly. um, yeah, we'll do a little better on that show, but we'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks for sticking with us and enjoy the Oscars this Sunday. See you then.
Happy watching.